Welcome back to the B-List.
Welcome back to B-List, you guys. Hey, how's it going?
It's good to see everybody again. Thanks for joining us.
Hopefully you guys had an excellent Valentine's Day, or as we like to consider it, February 15th, get free candy day because it's on clearance.
Yeah. And you know what is great too is that the Easter candy is starting to come out. So my husband got me a beautiful bouquet of flowers and surprised me with. We're not one for the Hallmark holidays, but he did surprise me with flowers.
Aww.
And then he brought me Cadbury mini eggs, which are
Those
my
mini
favorite.
eggs, which are your favorite. Every time so we used to work together, and every time I see those, I think of you. Every time.
They're my favorite candy, and they only come out like the once a year. And so
he brought
stocking
up for like your birthday in August, and then just surprise you in August with like a bunch of Cadbury.
Yeah, Costco has been having the big bags for sale.
Heck yes.
And so I've been like,
you gotta stock up,
putting them in there. There's some in my closet, for later, for after Easter.
It takes like a year for it to expire, so like.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it might take a couple of years.
Maybe.
I'll chance it. They're in a candy shell, so they're safe, right? It's like M&Ms. They just don't go bad.
No.
So anyway, but today we've got a very problematic movie that we'd like to discuss. It's a terrible movie.
But a classic.
It's a classic. It has a cult following. And take it away. What is it called, Tara?
Sleepaway Camp from 1983.
Sleepaway Camp. I remember this movie being a lot scarier than it actually was growing up.
Yes, and I remember this was definitely one of those that you got at anytime you were at a slumber party or something, you were watching Sleepaway Camp. And there's 2 or 3 sequels, so
yeah.
It's
there's 5 movies altogether. Yeah. Yeah, let me get into the deets of this. It has a runtime of about an hour and 24 minutes, and it's again another director-writer. So
there was a lot of that in the 80s.
I believe his name was Robert Hiltzik, and he's also known for writing 4 additional Sleepaway Camps, but he only directed one other one, which was 2008's Return to Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, I didn't know they made them that recent.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But yeah, I think it's 2008, or is it? It might be 2018.
Either way,
either way, it's in the 2000s. Yeah. So I'll have to look that up. But it was produced by American Eagle Films. Not a whole lot about them. It had a budget of $350,000. But it made $11 million at the box office.
What?
So, and I'm like, how did this get made in the first place? But it had a following, and people enjoyed it. So, and the actors in it did not go on to do great things either. They were a lot of one-shot actors.
Yeah.
Some of them went on to do other things. Again, we keep picking these movies with a huge cast. And it would take forever to break down the careers of every single one of these kids. So go look it up yourself. It's on IMDb.
Core, yeah.
Let's get into this horrible movie and talk about how problematic this movie is.
Just as a blanket statement, we do not agree with anything that's happening in this movie.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that people will still watch this movie and this is a great film because it's the themes.
We are allies. We are.
Yeah. We'll get into why. As we tell you.
Start it. Okay, so opens on a beautiful lake and an empty camp and the most dramatic horror movie music that you've ever heard in your life.
Yes.
And there's a sign that says Camp Arawak for sale. And then it's
gated off with a sheriff's notice.
It's got boards and stuff. Yeah.
And so we cut back to the lake, and a brother and sister, small children, are on a boat arguing with their dad.
Yeah.
Is there, and so
and the kids have the thickest New York accents ever.
Yeah.
The dad does not.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
Public schools indoctrinating our kids.
Yep. There you go.
And so they see some teenagers speed by and asked their dad if they can try water skiing like the teenagers.
Yeah.
And so you cut over to the teenagers that are driving the boat, and there's a girl and a boy, and
the boy is wearing a lifeguard shirt.
He's wearing a lifeguard shirt. So
turns out he's a shitty lifeguard.
He's awful at this. And they're also towing another girl that's skiing.
Young girl who's skiing, yeah.
Yeah, and so girlie in the boat wants to drive, And
like, please let me drive. As the lifeguard, he should say no, because that's not safe, and you know what the hell you're doing.
Well, at first he does. He's like, oh, well, are you know,
right? You don't know how to do this.
I don't want to lose my job, so you don't know how to do this.
Yeah,
but
go
of course,
with your gut, lifeguard kid.
Yeah, and so back to the young siblings on the boat with their dad, and they're fighting and arguing. They topple the boat and everybody falls in, and they're laughing. You know, they got their life jackets on. It's okay.
It's safe. It's fine.
It's
the
fine.
Boat kind of flips.
Boat flips. They're all in the water. And then we cut back to the teenagers, and the teenage boy lets the girl take over. And what does she do?
Put that pussy on a pedestal,
right?
And then he just let her drive.
Let her drive, and of course, she's just a girl, so she doesn't know how to do it right.
And she keeps looking behind her, like she's
like, no, girl, look forward.
So I grew up on boats, and when you have someone skiing or inner tubing or whatever, like the driver drives. Someone else in the boat is looking at the person who's
paying
behind.
attention.
That way you can say, oh, she fell. Oh, she's, you know. The driver's not looking behind.
Yeah. And so neither one of the kids in the boat are paying attention. And of course, little girl takes it off course out of the lake and toward the shore where the other boat is.
Towards the shore.
And they're heading straight to the shore. She ends up hitting the entire family.
Well, before that happens, like, the skier is seeing what's happening.
Yeah,
she is screaming for her life.
This is the best acting in the movie.
She is trying to get that Academy Award. She is like,
yeah, for your consideration.
Meryl Streep. She is, yes, she's trying her hardest to scream. And I'm like, you know what? I believe it. I believe that she's upset.
Yeah, she is really upset. And so they hit the family.
They hit the family.
And then so you see the unconscious bodies floating in the water. And
she's just screaming.
And she's just screaming. The skier is just screaming bloody murder, as she should. So anyway, so there's our opening scene. Now we cut to...
Jump to 8 years later.
Yeah, some years in the future, we cut to a boy named Ricky, and he's with his mom and his cousin, Angela, and they're heading off to camp.
And the mom is real weird, you guys.
That's what I kept putting. Mom is a trip. Overdramatic. Loud. Weird.
She's giving Stepford wife. She's giving, like,
yeah.
I don't know. She's just very, like, prim,
she's
proper.
Acting her heart out, too. She's so over the top.
You guys, let's get ready for camp.
Let's get ready for camp.
So already, red flag. Something.
Yeah.
Ricky seems pretty average teen boy.
Average young teen, 12,
Angela
13 years.
Is very quiet.
Very quiet. Angela, of course, is the cousin. And
he's kind of snarky and like...
Yeah, typical teenage boy. Mom hands the kids some paperwork.
Which apparently is their physicals, which you need to go to camp.
Yeah.
And she's like, don't tell anybody because I did this myself since I'm a doctor.
I'm a doctor, and they wouldn't approve of how we did this.
A family member doing it. Because obviously you need to go someone else.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them how you got these. And Ricky says, I wouldn't...
Immediately I flagged, weird.
I wrote that several times in my notes as well. And shady.
What's happening?
And so
they grab their bags and they're off to camp.
We cut to the buses arriving at camp, and the kids are excited. Everyone's off the bus. They're running. They're falling down. Counselors are yelling to slow down.
We meet this one camp counselor who's wearing the shortest hoochie daddy shorts I have ever seen in the history of ever. Ronnie.
I call him Brawny Ronnie because his muscles do not fit in those tiny shorts.
I just called him Counselor Short Shorts.
Shorty Shorts.
And the owner of the camp, who's smoking a cigar.
Yeah, Mel is his name.
I completely did not write his name down. But he's like, this old man just like, I'm like, are you supposed to be smoking a cigar? Which, of course, it was the 80s, so everyone was smoking everywhere. But I'm like, it's real weird to just be standing there smoking a cigar, welcoming children into your camp.
Right. And so, yeah, he's there telling everybody to slow down. And so we pan over to the kitchen staff, all adult men.
Problematic.
Here's where our first big problem lies. One of them, Artie, he's the creep.
He's the cook.
He's the head cook. And
he gives kind of like, you know who he kind of reminds me of?
Who's that?
Like Biff from Back to the Future.
A little bit, yeah.
He's kind of like older Biff, you know?
Yeah.
Like he's kind of given that kind of like smarmy, creepy vibe.
Right. And so
he's like objectifying these girls.
Yeah, he's saying, well, he says, look at all those young, fresh chickens. Where I come from, they're called baldies. And then he says, makes your mouth water, don't it?
And then someone mentions that they're too young. They don't even know what you're talking about. And he says, there's no such thing as being too young.
Yes.
How did this man get a job at the camp?
Yeah, so this older black man that works in the kitchen with him, he's all, they're too young to know what's on your mind. And then he says, there's no such thing
as being too young.
You're just too old.
For the record, there is such thing as being too young, and that's a crime.
Yeah. And then Ben just...
they just laugh it off.
They laugh it off. The kitchen staff laughs it off.
Ben.
This is problematic. This is not just a red flag. He's painted red.
This is a felony.
This is a felony. This is wrong. But, okay.
I digress. Anyways.
Moving on.
Angela and Richard meet up with his friend.
His friend Paul.
And Ricky shows her around, and they come up to Judy, who apparently he, had a thing with,
They went steady last summer.
But she's only talking to older boys now.
And she's developed more since last summer, so all the boys are paying attention to her.
She is a complete see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, she's a mean girl.
She's mean girl.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, and of course, Judy is in the same cabin as Angela. Yeah. And poor Angela, is so shy, and she just doesn't say much, and she kind of gives me the vibes in Stranger Things whenever 11 first shows up and doesn't say much.
She doesn't say much or whatever.
She just doesn't know where to. She is certainly out of her element, and I kind of feel sorry for her.
Camp counselor Meg, and she's telling all the girls to get unpacked, and this is when Judy is just already being a bitch to her. She's just like, "What are you staring at?"
And Meg is also just a huge bitch too.
Meg is a huge bitch
too. There's a second counselor in there, Susie's always back off, quit being so mean but Meg and Judy are just
first of all, Meg doesn't need to be working there if she's going to be rude and hateful.
Right. She's like children. The counselor. She's she's supposed to be keeping them wrangled and in order and everything, but whatever. And so,
fast forward to the mess hall later, and everyone's eating.
Yeah, and it's about 3 days later. We cut
Angela
a few days.
is not eating, and she's not speaking, and Shorty Shorts counselor guy, Ronnie tells her to let's go to the kitchen and we'll find you something to eat.
Right.
If you don't like anything here,
yeah, maybe you're just
trying to be accommodating.
Yeah, you're homesick. Let's go find something for you to eat.
Let's get you a Twinkie or a hot fudge sundae or whatever.
Yeah, and Meg, as he's taking her away, Meg's you're already spoiling the brat. It's this girl has not caused any problems for you yet. She's
been mute and hasn't eaten in 3 days.
It's show a little concern. She's obviously going through something.
Exactly.
So anyway.
So fast forward to creepy fucking chef is there.
Yeah.
And
Artie.
Shorty tells her find something for you, and then he has to leave. He has to go answer the phone or something.
And he leaves her alone in the walk-in refrigerator with creepy Artie.
A legitimate pedo.
Yeah. Legitimate, and this is how I know for sure it hasn't been misconstrued.
No, yeah.
She tells her to look around the refrigerator, and he says, see anything you like? You look like a sweet cupcake, Angela. And then he starts to freaking unbuckle his pants.
He is unbuttoning his pants. Unbuttoning, unzipping. Luckily, thank God, Ricky shows up. And he pushes Ricky up against the wall. And
against the shelves.
Shit, don't you tell anybody I did this.
Keep your mouth shut. And so Ricky grabs Angela and they run out of the walk-in freezer. But the other guys that are working in the kitchen see them run out, and Artie comes out and he's buckling up his belt.
Buckling his pants.
And they're like, what happened? And Artie's like, I guess I scared them.
Yeah, with your gross adult man dick.
And so our Mel, the camp owner, he's like, yeah, I guess you did. And he's looking all suspicious. But I'm like, you just witnessed 2 kids run in terror from this man.
This asshole comes out
buckling his pants. Police report. File that. Get him out of the camp.
Immediately, police.
There is something. Start questioning the kids. What happened? Tell me exactly. We need to get this guy.
Shut down the camp immediately. Something happened.
I was at this point, please be the first kill. This guy needs to go. Be the first kill.
We cut to old chef is like shucking some corn, and creepy chef is on this stool looking into this comically large pot.
I have never seen a pot like that before.
You could boil a Backstreet Boy.
It probably
in this
holds
pot.
20, 30 gallons of water. He has to crawl up on a chair to look into it.
It's a human-sized
It's
pot.
Yeah, you could boil a child in this pot. It's the biggest thing I've ever seen.
And the kitchen is filthy, by the way.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so sorry not to be sexist, but you can't just let men be in control
I know,
of the kitchen.
right? I've worked in jobs, though, where men were heads of kitchens, and they were immaculate.
So he's, like, salting in the boiling water, and someone comes up behind him. You don't see who.
Yeah, well, he's out of salt, so he goes to go get it, and you see this point of view where somebody comes in and crouches and hides. It was a point of view, so you don't see who's sneaking in. But then he gets back in there and he's salting it really good.
Water, and someone kind of moves the chair.
Yeah, and yanks it out from under him, basically. And he pulls like 30 gallons of boiling water.
And his arms and his face, like you can see his arms and his face, they're all blistered.
Yeah, his screams bring the other cook, Ben, back into the room.
And Ben looks horrified, but he don't do much.
That's barely a reaction and stands there for way too long. There is no urgency.
If I were his fucking coworker, I'd be the same way, though.
I'd be the same way.
Gosh darn.
God, that looks like it's smart.
That looks like that hurts.
But he's pretty blistered, and
so the paramedics come and they wheel him away, and the owner of the camp is like, "How's he doing, doctor?" They had a doctor come from the paramedics.
So. Well, I guess they might have a doctor on the campsite just in case. I don't know.
I don't know.
He's a full-on doctor, though, not a nurse.
He's like, he's bad burns, and he's going to be in a lot of pain.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, because Mel asks him, what's the prognosis? It's like, you saw the prognosis.
Prognosis is his skin is falling off.
He looks like a boiled chicken.
Yeah.
So that's the prognosis. But and the doc's saying, I don't have a sedative and strong enough to take that agonizing pain away.
He's an agonizing pain.
He's awful. What a poor guy.
So sorry.
But here's the thing. I didn't mind this one. This was not that horrifying to me.
This is a death where it's like, okay.
And I don't know if he died. Yeah. I don't know if he died, but I'm all for it.
He for sure deserved to die.
He deserved every bit of this. So anyway.
And they're like, no sense in telling the campers. And the owner tells Ben and the other people to be more careful.
Yeah.
And while he's talking to Ben, there are full fly traps hanging,
like stuck to his head
almost by this man's head.
Yeah,
and they are so full of flies.
Disgusting. Camp
and
food.
He's like, tell Ben, like, if anyone asks, just say creepy chef found another job.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a raise, and now you're in charge. So
it's like an extra $1 a week or whatever.
It was $50 a week.
You're $50 a week,
and Ben's like,
to cook for an entire fucking camp full of kids. Whatever.
But 83. That was substantial in 83.
I guess.
So,
I don't know. I was a year old.
So Artie, I don't know if Artie had died, but disfigurement is perfectly acceptable to me. And at this point, we don't know who did it.
Yep.
So, but I'm fine with it. Let's cut back to the boy campers.
Yep, the boy cabin.
And one of them, Mozart, they're doing a little prank where they're trying to get him to sit up blindfolded, but when he sits up,
like mind over matter. Yeah. And they got him on the ground, like with his eyes covered. And they're, like, trying to get him to sit up or whatever. And they're like, see if you can sit up. And he does. And his face is just on another kid, on Paul's ass.
Yeah, slaps in a bare butt.
And this is, again, problematic. Because I'm like, do we show naked children's butts?
I know. There's a naked child's butt on the screen.
That kid's for sure not 18. And then there's no way.
Yeah, and then the counselor comes in and is like, you guys stop it. So you're fine with SA.
You're fine with SA and everyone passing around pink eye for the rest of
for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, gross.
And then they go to play baseball.
This is okay, I didn't know there was going to be so much fucking sports in this movie.
I know.
And they played baseball for way too long.
Oh, gosh. A lot of the scenes go too long.
Baseball game, just like hoochie daddy shorts and cut off shirts. Yeah. Everyone's, and
Mozart is out playing on his calculator.
He's playing on his calculator.
In the outfield.
I paused this because I said the kid in the outfit, Mozart, is playing a 1983 equivalent of a Game Boy, and I paused it, and it says, electronic calculator, boxing clock, and game. The screen is all of, like, this big, and you can see tiny little boxing men.
Yeah, it reminds me of those little old Tiger games that...
Yeah, so, like, those little, like keychain games or whatever you
get
that, like...
Yeah,
almost like a Tamagotchi situation.
Yeah, it's like 4 pixels bouncing around.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so, of course, I think... oh, look at this nerd. He's going to be problematic in this game. But no, he catches a fly ball.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, there's no conflict here. So
no, and it's
I don't
just
know.
way too much baseball for too long.
Way too much baseball. Ricky's team wins.
And then the other team is like, we'll get back at them.
Yeah.
For what? Being better at sports?
Uh-oh. Rivalry.
Like, because you wore pants that were strangling your dick and you couldn't play sports?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the shorts are too tight.
Yeah, it's the 80s. I don't know what it was about the shorty shorts in the early 80s.
If they have to, like, bend down to get, like a ground ball, their ground balls are
Their own balls are going to be
balls are going to be touching the ground, dusting the ground. It's just going to be tips of dicks everywhere, just barely bloop, bloop,
I don't know, most of these kids haven't had their balls drop yet anyway, so whatever.
It's like almost like you're waiting for a nip slip, but it's like a dick slip. You're just waiting for like.
But you don't want to because these kids are like 12.
They're 12 years old, except for like the half-grown men with hairy chests who supposedly also still go to the camp.
Also, yeah, I don't.
There's one player, I think it's on the other team, not Ricky's team, but on the other team. He's wearing like a crop shirt,
like a crop top, yeah,
and he full chest hair,
yeah,
like built like a gay bear.
Was he? Yeah, he was one of the counselors. Or no, not the counselors. He was a camper.
He was a camper.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Apparently he'd been going there for, I don't know, 20 years. I don't know.
Right. And so
back in the mess hall, all the kids
this
are
is like a week
out.
later now.
Yes. They're hanging out and they're talking about going skinny dipping.
Yeah, and talking about getting the girls to join them.
Let's invite Angela.
And they say she's so weird. Let's invite her.
And she is not having it. She's
like,
what the hell's the matter with you? You're just like screaming at her.
Yeah, and then
like maybe she just doesn't want to get gang raped at camp.
Yeah. Yeah, like they are too focused on this poor girl. But Mel comes in with a cigar again into the mess hall, and he's got the fanciest little golf pants I've ever seen. This guy is
he owns
really
the camp, Courtney.
I know.
He has an image to him.
Yeah, daddy big bucks over here with a cigar and fancy golf pants. But Ricky comes in and sees Angela getting harassed.
And this time he's wearing a cowboy hat. Now, I am not going to fashion shame anyone, but I think that Ricky has brought an entire suitcase of hats because this is his third hat that he's worn so far.
Yeah, he likes hats. It's okay. I like hats too.
He loves a festive moment where he gets to accessorize.
Yeah. And if there's any place to wear a cowboy hat, it's at the summer camp mess hall.
It's at the camp mess hall when you're about to get into a fight because someone's messing with your coat. So they get into fisticuffs and they start punching the shit out of each other.
Yeah, and she just sits there and stares the whole time. She doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, she's like disassociated.
Yeah, the counselors break it up. Ricky leaves. His friend Paul.
The owner does nothing. The
owner's just standing there smoking his damn cigar.
Well, he spent a lot of money on that cigar. Well, was he going to get his fancy pants dirty?
This is back when the Cubans were illegal.
I mean, for sure.
Cuban cigars.
And they get separated, and then cousin Ricky says he's gonna beat their asses in, and I don't think that's what he meant to say.
Yeah, but
beat their asses in.
All right, and so
Paul talks to Angela.
Paul kind of likes Angela a little bit, and so.
Judy's not having it, though. She gives him the stink eye from across the room.
Judy is jealous.
Judy is just yucking everyone's yum in this movie. She's the fucking worst.
Doesn't like it, but then the counselor comes back in and tells everybody it's time to go to your bunks, clear out.
And then Paul's like, I guess I better go.
Paul says good night.
Good night. And Angela says good night.
Angela says good night. It's the first word she said, and it's
then
like
he's just like, yes.
Yeah, it's like 30 minutes. 30 minutes into the movie, and she finally says her first word. So the boys all go to the lake that night, and they bring some of the girls with them, and they're getting mad that the girls don't want to go for a swim.
Again, probably because they don't want to get groped in this nasty lake water.
Right. And so the boys just start to strip and get naked and jump in the lake. Fully nude. Boys. Bunch of naked little boys on here. Again, problematic movie.
Jumping into the water. Where are the adults?
Where are the adults?
They're screaming and hooting and hollering. You're telling me that like no one is hearing these naked children jumping into the lake?
Right.
Right.
And so they're trying to get the girls to go on a canoe ride, and one of them, Leslie, agrees to it to go on a canoe ride with Kenny.
And so they're like on the kayak in the water, no life jackets.
Yeah, it's the canoe and no life jackets. And of course, it gets out there. Kenny starts trying to freak her out about snakes in the water and rocks the boat. And he tumps it over. And they're in the water.
She just swims away.
She's pissed.
But he goes to the underturned of the little boat.
Yeah, he gets up in the air pocket of the canoe.
Air pocket to breathe under there and is suddenly drowned.
Yeah, somebody pops out of the water.
Unknown
figure drowns him. And
but the rest of the campers just like, he's probably fine.
Right. And yeah, he's still out in the water. Nobody can see him. Nobody can hear him. And
just
they're like,
a PSA, if you're at camp and you choose to go off at night and swim with your friends and you don't know where one of your friends is, tell someone.
Tell somebody, because they just go back and then they go to bed and they don't worry about it.
Don't even think about them.
And so they're horrible people. So the next morning there's a counselor out there and he's
picking up their mess, because it's just, I don't remember them tearing everything apart.
No, but it's a mess out there somehow.
There's chairs in the water. And everything's
he's pissed.
He's pissed and screaming.
And so I guess the canoe had washed up or something, and he turns the canoe over, and there's Kenny.
Kenny is on the inside top of the canoe, because when he turns it over, Kenny is in there. So in the canoe.
Tied him into the canoe and flipped him over.
And he got a little snake coming out of his mouth.
And he's got a snake coming out of his mouth, and so... we cut to all the campers watching him being bagged up, and the police come. And
the owner says it was an accident, obviously.
It's an obvious, he's telling the paramedics. So like he just hit his head and drowned, right? And the paramedics like, it's going to be up to the medical examiner. It's not my expertise. And Mel's like, nope, that's what happened. It was an accident. That's what we're going to tell people.
Like, okay. And Shorty Short says he remembers Kenny being a good swimmer.
Yeah. And then Mel's like, now I've got the unpleasant task of calling Kenny's parents and telling them their son's dead.
Yeah,
and
imagine being Kenny's parents.
And I kept thinking, oh my God, they killed Kenny. You bastards! So
maybe Trey Parker and Matt Stone are like fans of Sleepaway Camp, and that's why they created Kenny.
I can see why. And so we cut to a volleyball game.
The girls are playing volleyball. I did not sign up for all these sports, but whatever. Judy is wearing a shirt that literally has her fucking name on it. And Paul is talking to Angela, and he asked her to go to the movie at the rec hall, and she's kind of like, we're all going to the movie at the rec hall. And he's like, yeah, but we could go together.
Yeah, we can go together. And so she says yes.
And Judy and Meg are being real bitches about it, because they're like, oh, you think you're too good to like play volleyball? You have to participate.
You have to participate. You can talk to the boys, but you can't talk to us girls.
Well, because he's the only one who's being nice to her.
Yeah. And so Meg comes over, the counselor comes over, and she's like, you're not allowed to talk to the boys. And Susie, the other counselor, is like, she can talk to boys, if that's what she's comfortable with.
Can you maybe calm the fuck down?
Yeah. And so...
Go take a Quaalude or whatever's cool in the 80s. Right. Jesus Christ. Go smoke weed like everyone else in these camp counselor movies.
Yeah. And Susie asks Angela, is there something else you'd rather do? And Angela tells her... I just like to watch. I just like to... Right. I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
And so they go to the movies. And after the movie, Paul and Angela walk out holding hands. And Jody hates it.
And at her bunk, he kisses her. And it's real awkward.
It's awkward, but first kisses. They're preteens and teenagers.
And he asks her, can I have another one? And she's like, I guess. You weren't that great at it at first, but sure, why not?
But it makes her super uncomfortable, and she kind of jets and goes inside. And then Jody comes up to Paul and is like, she's not your type.
Not Jody, Judy.
Was it Judy?
It's Judy.
Oh, I thought it was Jody.
No.
Judy, sorry.
Judy.
Oh, you know what? I think I've written down Judy a million times. No, and then I keep saying Jody.
It's
okay.
Judy.
So Judy confronts Paul and tells him that Angel is not his type. And back at the boys' cabin, they're still messing with the nerdy kid.
They're still with shaving cream in his hand, and they tickle him, so he slaps his face with shaving cream. And he pulls out a knife.
He goes nuclear. He pulls out like a combat knife.
And starts chasing
and I'm yelling, I'm gonna kill you, and starts brandishing and everything.
And the camp counselor comes in and he just takes it from him
and
hides it.
I'm taking this away.
He doesn't even hide it. He just stuffs it.
He slips it into a shelf.
And
he's like, no punishment. It's all cool.
It's cool. You guys
just go to bed.
Just go to bed.
So,
cut to Angela sitting outside on the benches and Paul is beside her.
Yeah, we're back at the lake a couple days later.
And Judy comes and she's being a bitch again.
Yeah, she just cannot leave Paul and Angela alone.
She just can't leave them alone, and everyone's swimming, and Meg comes up to Angela and asks why she won't swim. And Angela won't talk to her, and she starts
shaking her
like, you need to go swim.
Yeah.
And Short Shorts comes up and separates
them. Yeah, Ronnie.
Kind of a good guy.
Yeah, he's like, leave her alone. We're going to have a talk later. And so back at the girls' cabin, Judy is mad at Angela for getting Meg in trouble.
Yeah.
Over that whole thing.
Meg was the one who put her hands on a child and started shaking her vigorously.
You're a camp counselor. You're supposed to, like, keep everything even.
Shaking like a Polaroid picture,
right.
if you will. Jesus Christ.
And so Judy's like...
She asks Angela why she doesn't shower with the other girls.
Yeah, and asks her, are you queer or something?
Are you queer or something? Problematic.
And then she says, well, maybe it's because you haven't hit puberty yet. And starts
maybe
talking
you don't
about,
have pubic hair, and that's why you don't shower with us.
And you're flat as a board, and you're...
Oh, she tells you're a real carpenter's dream, flat as a board and need a screw.
Yeah.
Ew!
Problematic.
I don't like it.
So,
also, what fresh hell is this? Who wants to shower with a bunch of people? I don't know anyone who's, like, super stoked to get into the showers with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're in prison.
Right. And you have to.
And you've been there for a while, and you're just used to it. Like, nobody likes... Like, why... In my notes, I say, why are people so aggressive in the 80s? My God.
I know.
Kids pulling out knives and shaking each other, and...
I know, right?
Jesus Christ.
So Susie steps in again. She's like the cool counselor.
And she slaps her.
She's like, that's enough. But Judy keeps talking, and that, and Judy slaps her at that point, and then Judy runs off.
Yes!
And so Angela tells Susie that she's going to go find her cousin Ricky.
She's going to find Ricky, yeah.
And so she gets to the boys' cabin.
Where they're on the roof.
And they're on the roof.
Problematic. Unsafe.
Why aren't you paying attention to these campers? But
they're on the roof with water balloons.
Yeah, and they hit her, Angela, with a balloon. And it makes Ricky mad because they keep picking on his cousin. So he's yelling and he's using all this foul language at them and everything.
And the owner comes and tells them to get down. And then Angela could have lost an eye. I'm like, with a water balloon? And then he tells her to go get changed before she catches pneumonia.
Yeah, in the middle of the summer.
But okay. And, like, weren't they just swimming? But
yeah, in a dirty lake with, like, probably, like, E. coli.
And a dead body, for sure.
And a dead body.
A dead body was just in that lake.
And so Mel tells the boys that there's no canteen for a week for them, and if they do it again, they're going to get kicked out of camp.
Right.
And so they check on Angela. Paul comes over. Ricky's friend Paul comes back over, and she's okay. And then we cut to the boys getting ready for another god dang baseball game.
Yep. And the mean kid who was on the boys...
Billy, I think was his name.
Billy, the opposite baseball team, who said he was going to get them back.
Yeah, he goes to squeeze one out in the bathroom.
He says he'll be there soon. He has to take a wicked dump.
Yeah.
He says wicked dump, you guys.
Wicked. And so we see him go in there and pull down his pants, and we see the broom lock him in so he can't get out of the stall.
But there's a window in the stall.
But there's a window right behind him that's open with a screen, and we see a hand come up with a knife.
Cut the
screen, and then
put a beehive in
drop
there.
a beehive in the stall with him, and
he starts screaming, and I'm like, why don't you crawl under?
Yeah.
Why don't you crawl under?
Yeah, there's like a space. You can see his feet moving around, just like drop and start to walk, but he can't, and he's pushing against the stall. He breaks the broom and gets out.
But anyways,
but it's too late. It's too late. He's been stung to death.
I said he's dead via bees.
Yeah,
like
he's
Macaulay
dead.
Culkin and My Girl.
Yeah.
He can't see without his glasses.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. I won't be able to finish.
Okay. Anyways, so the owner says he's finished. He might as well just close up shop because no one's ever going to send their kids here again.
Yeah. And apparently, like, people had started pulling their kids out at this point because this is 2 dead bodies and a badly burned one.
And the cook's been
and he
cooked.
says there's only about 25 kids left because the parents are picking them all up and nobody's ever going to come back.
He knows who the killer is.
And he knows who it is.
He says he can see the hate in their eyes.
Yeah. And he is convinced that there is a killer among them. And everybody's like, I'm not so sure about that, Mel.
So later, Angela is standing around outside the cabins, and Paul comes up behind her, and they walk to the lake.
Yeah, he startles her when he walks up, and she jumps, and she says, I thought you were the killer.
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't believe that, do you?
Right.
So they go to the lake, and
they start smooching.
They kiss and frolic, and Paul starts to get a little handsy with her.
He tries to take off her shirt.
Yeah.
They're like, what, 14?
If even that. And she has like a flashback.
And she tries to stop him, and he says, come on, Angela, I'm not doing anything.
You're trying to undress her.
You're trying to undress her.
Problematic.
And she's clearly not okay with it. And she just literally disassociates, remembering a time when her and her brother were spying on her dad having sex with his boyfriend, with another man. And it wasn't graphic. They were just in bed. Like snuggles in bed.
But it was still kind of uncomfortable. But then, and they
kind of giggle.
Yeah. And then
they didn't seem traumatized by it.
Yeah, they didn't seem traumatized, but and then it also shows like part of the flashback is her sitting in bed with her brother, and they're like going to touch each other, but they never show it. It cuts away from it then. So I don't know if they're trying to say that there was some sort of like freaky sibling thing going on, because there was nothing graphic and nothing but
problematic.
Just problematic.
Problematic that they would insinuate that because they had a gay dad, something's going to happen.
Because they saw their dad snuggling another man, then now there's something
I know gay
wrong.
dads. They're fine.
They're fine. They're regular dads.
They're regular dads.
So, okay.
So, cut to
their
kids playing capture the flag.
Yeah. And, of course, you know, Angela doesn't want to play anything. So,
and he asks her why she got upset last night, and she's like, I'm sorry, I just wasn't ready.
Yeah, Paul.
Which is a perfectly acceptable answer, Paul.
And he's still trying to get touchy-feely with her. She's like...
She's not having it.
She's not having it. And when she says she's not ready, she leaves. And then Ricky comes after her and says,
when a girl says no, that means no.
No means no. No is a sentence.
No is a complete sentence.
Yes. So Ricky catches up with her and says, hey, cheer up. Let's go play. Let's go win, capture the flag.
Like, I have a plan. Let's go do this.
So they cut through the woods to like sneak up behind.
Yeah, you go this way, I'll go this way, and we'll meet them in the middle, and
we'll get the flag, right? And so they kind of split up.
What do they see, Courtney?
They see Judy and Paul making out. So,
and Ricky calls Judy a scumbag. And
yeah,
I think Paul's kind of a fucking scumbag too, if I'm being real.
Right.
Like, so she wouldn't let you feel her up, so all of a sudden you're just going to be kissing her mortal enemy? Literally the girl who's made her miserable since she got to camp?
Right. And so Angela runs off again. And we cut to later. They're at the lake again. Paul keeps trying to apologize to Angela and said that Judy wouldn't leave him alone.
And Judy said, Paul called you a prude.
Yeah, and Judy comes up and she's like, yeah, Paul called you a prude. That's
and she tries to force her to swim. She, like, picks her up. Like, they're trying to force her to swim.
Yeah, Paul leaves in embarrassment. And then Mel comes in.
Mel is talking to Ricky because he thinks Ricky's the killer.
He thinks Ricky is the killer.
This scrawny child who weighs like 70 pounds.
Yeah. He's all, how's your summer going, Ricky? And Ricky's like, well, I guess that there were more guys around because it's kind of hard to get a ball game going. I wish everyone
wasn't getting murdered all the time.
Yeah, that'd be great. And Mel's
can't play a baseball game anymore because all my friends are beat to death.
Yeah. And so, we cut back to
Meg and
Judy and messing with Meg, and they're messing with Angela, and they pick her up and throw her
in the water. They don't even know if she can swim.
Yeah, they don't know anything about that. And then so Ricky
hears it
and tries to go help Angela, but Mel is holding him back and accusing him of being a killer.
Again, shaking this child.
And then of course Ronnie comes over and stops him, and Ricky breaks away and saves Angela. And then Ricky sits her down to calm her down and into scene. So we cut to the counselors planning like a campfire camp out. And
they're like assigning all the duties.
They're assigning the duties, yeah.
And the owner makes a date with very young camp counselor Meg.
Like, Mel is all of 70 years old. But Meg is the one that approaches him. She's like, how about that dinner you promised me? And Mel's like, yeah, come to my place. I'll have that dinner ready for you.
Well, that's not going to hold
There's like
because I'm pretty sure Meg is underage. But
yeah,
Meg might be 18. I don't know.
She might be, but it doesn't matter.
So she goes to shower to get ready in the empty cabin.
Yeah,
because she's going to get ready for her date.
Yeah, she's all alone in the empty. Because what they did, they consolidated the cabins.
Because why have all these children just everywhere when you can
where you can put them all in the same place?
To get
so she
goes
into
one.
Yeah, you know. She goes into the empty one.
And she's taking her shower, and...
Of course, the killer, you see kind of a POV. You don't see the killer, but they come in and...
Stabs her shoe through the shower wall.
Right, and just, like, gets cut up the back through
These shower walls are real cheap.
I think it was just a curtain.
Because
the curtain
was...
But, yeah, gets stabbed in the back.
And he cleans the knife off and turns off the water. Because conservation.
Yeah, don't waste.
Good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then there's some kids that they had taken out into the woods for a campfire camp out. And so they're doing like the rustic camping out there. And Paul back at the cabins finds Angela.
Yeah.
And Judy comes to make some snarky comments again. Then Angela tells Paul to meet her at the lake
later. Meet me at the waterfront after the social.
Yeah, after the social. They're having a social
And he thinks he's in like Flynn. He thinks he's finally going to get
He's gonna
to feel her up just a little bit, probably against her will.
Probably against her will.
And the camp boys, like, one of the little camping boys is cold. He
Couple of them.
And I'm like, it's summer.
It's summer. It can't be that cold, but whatever.
And the counselor's like, no, you guys, we're not.
We're out here camping. And they're like, please. And so he's like, okay, fine. I'll take you guys back.
I'll take you guys back. Leaving some of the other campers.
He doesn't tell the other campers he's leaving. He leaves
just
them
leaves
asleep.
these kids sleeping
and
in the middle of the
like
woods.
3 or 4 of them left. And so he goes to take the other kids back.
With the killer on the loose? You're just leaving these kids alone in the woods? I would have canceled the camp out, probably, since there's, murder happening.
Right. Don't separate. Let's stay in as a group.
All stay
at
together.
the very least.
Yeah.
But anyway. So
I
then
said, if I were these parents, I would want a refund, please.
Right. Then you see like a POV of the killer out in the woods again, and they find a hatchet.
They pick up the hatchet, yeah.
And then we cut back to the canteen where the social is happening, and Mel shows up looking for Meg.
Where's Meg? And I, like, as the other counselors, I'd be like, why the fuck are you looking for Meg?
Why do you
You're
need
an
to
adult.
know? Yeah, you're 70 and
Grandpa.
she's like 17, 18 at best. But go ahead. And she didn't come to dinner. He tells them, and they're like, well, maybe she's at the bunk. And so he goes to check the bunk.
So back at the bunk, Judy is kissing a boy.
Another guy, I don't think he got a character name.
And she hears the noise, so she shoves him under the bed.
Shoves him under the bed.
When Mel comes and asks about Meg, and she's like, oh, I think she took a shower next door.
And so he leaves, and
in the empty cabin, he goes in to look for Meg and finds her stabbed to death.
Yeah.
She falls out from the shower curtain.
Yeah, she was standing this whole time? Like, what?
They propped her up, and how did they
against the
prop her
shower
up in
curtain?
such a way that she would fall when he came in?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. Convenient. Very, very convenient. And
And
then
he
Mel,
says-
he monologues about the killer.
Well, first he says, that's too bad. I rewound it twice. When he saw her fall, he said, that's too bad.
That's too bad.
This is the girl you were potentially in a relationship with.
The young underage girl.
And he knows for sure Ricky did it. Like, he
knows.
That's too bad.
That's too bad. So
Now he has to make another unfortunate phone call.
Right.
To her parents.
Oh, man. This day couldn't get worse.
He hates phone calls. Just text him.
Just hey,
Just
daughter dead.
Just beep him.
Yeah, beepers.
So anyways,
So Mel, he monologues and he's like, he's saying that the killer, who he thinks is Ricky still, is like trying to get back at him for something. What exactly was he gonna get back at him for, though?
Maybe because you shook the bejesus out of him in the middle, like when his
maybe
cousin was drowning. I don't know.
And
so meanwhile, Judy is curling her hair in the dark.
She's all by herself in the cabin now. I guess her boyfriend left because he didn't want to get caught doing anything. So
and the killer opens the door and punches her,
knocks her silly,
and then
grabs the hot curling iron.
So I thought something, and then I went to read about it on the Wikipedia page for this, and she is sexually assaulted with the curling iron. And that's how she dies.
It doesn't show it. You where see, like, you see a shadow of a
curling iron,
and then you hear sizzling
and her screaming,
and then she dies. I was thinking he must have done that. He must have assaulted her with it. Which I still don't think you would die. I think that it would probably scar you.
Burning. It would have made sense maybe down her throat where you would like
choked her with a hot. Yeah, but I mean it really does.
The roses in Cupid.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
I shouldn't do this, but I did it. And
you're welcome.
You're welcome. And so yeah, I had to read about that because I was like,
how exactly do you kill someone
at
with
first
a curling
I was like,
iron?
did he beat her to death with a curling iron? Like, what
yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
And so I looked it up online, and that's what happened. And then he just, like, moves the bed and, like, shoves her under the bed.
Hides her under the bed.
Okay.
Well, then...
The boys at the camp out.
Ricky...
have all been murdered.
Yeah, that's right.
The counselor comes, and...
Counselor in the woods comes by.
He throws up when he sees them.
I guess they're all chopped up and dead, and he just... Right.
And then he has to run for help.
So he panics and starts running and calls for help. Ricky shows up at the canteen looking for something to eat and walking back just as Ronnie is getting the news that the campers in the woods are dead on the phone. He gets a phone call. So Mel grabs Ricky at that point, believing he did it.
Yeah.
And drags him into the woods.
He is beating the shit out of this.
And beat the ever-loving shit out of this
I thought that
poor
was
kid.
a rap on Ricky. I'm like, Ricky.
I thought he was beat to death, and I think that he intended to beat him to death. But when Mel hears a noise, he jogs out of the woods where he's met with someone unseen.
And gets an arrow
holding an arrow. Yeah, holding an arrow, and then it's impaled through his throat. So what I want to know is, though, because they're holding the arrow in their hand is all you see, and then all of a sudden it's in his throat. So did he have...
Did they stab him?
Did he stab him? Did he throw it? Did he
Or
use
he's like, hang
bow?
on a second.
He's all, hang on, let me aim this up while Mel's all,
He's an old man, Courtney. He can't move fast.
Yeah.
So anyway, the cops show up and tell the counselors to keep all the kids in a bunk and so they can go look for Angela and Judy, which honestly, I'm pretty sure a cop should have stayed here this whole time.
Right.
After the first murder.
After the murders, but
definitely
so far they were looking like accidents. Like the bees and the boiling water and all. It looked like accidents at first. Now, until May...
You're telling me the police thought that the bees cut a hole in that screen and...
Evolution.
The bees knifed the screen and then bzzz, in there.
Okay,
whatever. So we are suspending reality. That's fine. So on the beach, Paul is waiting for Angela.
Yeah. Yeah, they discovered that Angela and Judy are missing, and Paul and Ricky are also. And so they go to look. Paul's at the lake waiting for Angela. She shows up and says, let's go swimming. Get naked.
Yep. And he's excited to go skinny dipping.
He is excited.
He starts getting undressed. Mm-hmm. And in the woods, the adults find Ricky just beaten up.
Yeah, just beaten up,
Ricky's
gasping
fine.
for air. He's alive. Ricky's alive.
They carry him to the cabin where they find Meg.
They find Meg's body. Everyone's shocked.
This is when I realized, Courtney, the police officer is wearing the fakest mustache.
He was wearing a fake
ever
mustache.
Seen.
It was real in a couple of the scenes, and then he shaved it off, and then I think that he had to come back for reshoots, and they had to put a fake one on him.
It looks like they took Eugene Levy's eyebrows.
Just took off
and just boop, stuck them on his face.
Looks really real.
Really real. And at the water, the counselors hear Angela singing.
Yeah. And then so there's like, she's got like Paul in her lap and
like
she's stroking his head
and you can hear
his hair.
Singing.
And then she has a flashback to her with her aunt, Ricky's mom.
Giving her new clothes.
And she's giving her a dress saying that she always wanted a little girl, but her husband left and she never got one. And
she already has a boy.
Yeah, so having another little boy simply wouldn't do. And Angela is such a lovely name. You'll love it too, won't you, Peter? Wait a second,
that is the point when we see
Cut
Paul's
back suddenly.
Decapitated head falling out of Angela's lap. Mm-hmm. She stands up. And we see
she has a penis. Yep.
And a knife in her hand.
And she's growling like a feral Bigfoot.
Everyone has seen this gif. Everyone has seen this moment in time where she's just mouth wide open.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's a wrap on this.
Yeah,
and
that's Sleepaway Camp. Let's talk about why I think that this is so problematic for like what we're going through today.
It's 2025, so let's look at it with fresh eyes.
Let's look at it, yeah. This is one of the reasons. This is why people are so afraid of trans children and adults. Because this is the kind of stuff we grew up with.
It's like all of MAGA saw one.
They saw this movie.
They saw this movie and made a bunch of.
And Silence of the Lambs. Those are the two movies.
The two movies, and then they made a bunch of wrong assumptions. About an entire class of people.
Yeah.
Based
what
on that.
I kept trying to figure out is okay. So Angela was actually Peter. She was a boy. Now
that's why I'm like.
I don't know if you can say that she is a trans person because she was forced into living.
Is she voluntarily trans? Like,
right.
At this point, is she voluntarily trans? Or, like, because she was forced into it, like... Yeah. Would she consider herself transgender? Or she thinks, I'm just a boy who has to dress like this because my aunt is a crazy human. Like,
right. Did her aunt force her into becoming this, which made her crazy and homicidal? Or, like, what exactly was the trigger that made Angela homicidal? And I think that the wrong message...
It's not that she's trans.
It's not that she's trans, period.
It's that her aunt abused her.
Her aunt.
And raised her.
Right. And then all of this pent-up anger, maybe, from all this time, every time she's made fun of, or, there's a sexual advance on her, or anything like that. It could be super triggering.
Yeah.
However, I find it a problem that anybody who is anti-trans is going to look at this and see.
And also that they threw in there that the dads were gay is like...
As part of her trauma?
Right. When it clearly wasn't. She was having a great boat day. If you will look like in the beginning of the movie when she's like on the boat with her sister and her dad.
Yeah.
Like the guy on the beach is like, hey, we got to come on in. Like it's almost time to leave or whatever. That's the boyfriend. That's the boyfriend that was in the later scene. Yeah. The husband, whoever was in the later scene.
Right.
So like they were just having a nice beach day with their kids.
Right.
They were not doing anything inappropriate. They were not...
And they were giggling whenever they were peeking in on them in the flashback, so I don't see that it was, like,
traumatized
horrifying.
And, like, oh, I didn't know this was happening. Oh, I didn't know my dad was gay, and I'm,
right.
so traumatized I'm going to go murder some folks later.
Yeah.
Like, so, there's
So I don't appreciate the fact that they used as the biggest plot point in here that because Angela was a trans girl, that's what made her homicidal. Like, that's the big reveal.
Right.
That's such the wrong message, and it's not true.
Right.
And now that's the points in art and film.
Statistics show that trans people are more on the receiving end of crime than on the committing end of crime.
Right.
So, not to get political, but to get political because fuck it, we're here.
Yeah.
Trans people are great. And
trans people are just fine.
Gay people are awesome. They're just like you and me.
And don't let these stupid old 80s horror movies shape your opinion of an entire demographic.
This should not be your education on trans people.
Yeah.
This should not be your education on gay people or how they raise children or any of that.
What it should be judged on is the fact that this camp hired
a fucking pedophile
and
bitches
and then let it all go until people got murdered
and willy-nilly didn't watch any of the kids.
Yeah. This was a horrible camp. This was awful. And I would not send your kids there if I were you.
Yeah, it's right up there with, like, Jason Voorhees' camp.
Right.
You know? Like,
yeah.
Maybe they were the same camp. I don't know. Like, maybe they were next door.
Yeah.
Apparently, in the 80s, don't send your kid to camp.
Yeah. This is probably why my mom never wanted me to go to camp, was because of this.
Because you were either going to die or you were going to be diddled.
Right. And I've got some trivia about the movie.
Well, let's hear it.
Let's see. Mike Kellen, the one that played Mel, the ancient the owner, Cigar Man, he was sick during filming, and he did his best to conceal it, but he died of lung cancer. Cigars.
Maybe not so many takes with the cigars.
He died in August 1983, 3 months before the film was released, so he never even saw it. So he died before the movie came out. The director dedicated the movie to his mother, who died before production began. I'm sure wherever she is, she's proud of you. And it was her financial inheritance from her death, or his inheritance from her death, that provided the bulk of the movie's funding. So I hope that she knows that it was money well spent wherever she is.
A passion project.
Yeah. During the filming of the scene where Artie hits Ricky against the shelves in the pantry and tells him to shut his mouth, Artie actually hit him so hard that he still had lines on his back at the end of filming from bruising. So these kids were actually very much abused during the filming of this. It was also shot in early fall whenever the campers weren't actually at the camp. So, but it was set in midsummer, so the crew was having to spray paint the leaves green because they were all brown. Yeah. So they had to paint all the leaves to make it look like summer to keep continuity, because the leaves just kept...
definitely spray paint the trees. That's
And the little boy that plays young Peter, Angela, before Angela, the boy that played young Peter is played by Maximo Sorrentino, who is the older brother of Mike the Situation Sorrentino from Jersey Shore.
Oh, Jersey Shore's brother.
And here was the most interesting fact I found. The older black man that plays the cook is Ben. Ben. He is Robert Earl Jones, the father of James Earl Jones.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
That was Darth Vader's dad.
Darth Vader's dad, and he turned out to be a good one. He didn't diddle any of the kids.
He didn't, but he allowed it to happen. He was the one that was like, oh, Artie,
He was an apologist.
Yeah, he's enabler. So anyway, Sleepaway Camp. There are 4 more of these movies that I'm sure that we can cover in the future.
So I watched, not that long ago, I think I watched like the second one. Maybe it was the third one. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. It's the one where like, there's like rap music in it. I'm not sure which one it was. It was probably the third one. I don't know. But, like the rest of the movies are like the woman who plays, her name is what? Felissa, the girl who plays Angela, like she didn't play Angela in the other movies.
Right.
And they don't even mention the fact that she was born a boy in that whole movie.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to watch those and catch up with those. It's been a while. It's been a minute since I've seen them.
I haven't seen them all. It was on Prime, so I just watched it the other day.
Okay.
So...
Yeah, so we'll watch those for you, and if you'd like us to cover some more sleepaway camps, we can definitely do that for you guys. Otherwise, I hope everybody is having a great time this year in 2025. I know that I am, and
the world is on fire, and we're just here with the marshmallows.
This is fine, you guys. This is fine. Let's have some s'mores.
It's fine.
Okay,
it's fine.
Yeah. So we'll see you next time, and thank you again.
Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.
We love you.
Bye.